Welcome everyone to the Eurajian Family Studio at CivilNet. Today I'm joined by Davit Hovhannisyan, Chief Information Officer at Ameriabank, one of Armenia's leading financial institutions. Davit, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Yamag.
Absolutely. Let's talk about exactly what you do. So as I said, you're the Chief Information Officer at Ameriabank. What does that look like day to day? And what can you tell us about your work and your team's work toward Ameriabank's digital transformation?
Yes, thank you for the question. And indeed, the answer to this is quite broad, but I would start with the last part of your question, about, so talking about the digital transformation, right? And even doing one step back. So at Ameriabank, we have a very clear vision, right? So the vision Ameriabank is to be a financial technology space, right? With solutions which create value add, which improve quality of life for our customers. So this is the clear vision. And so what we do in order to achieve that vision. And digital transformation is just a tool to move us towards that vision, right? In addition, if we look at what is happening around us, so how the markets are changing, so the speed of change is unprecedented, both in technologies and in business areas, both is taking the place, right? So we are seeing the customer expectations are changing and rising. We are seeing digital native competitors are entering the field. We are even seeing that the digital talent or the best talent in tech space is able to choose. So they are going for more modern, more advanced companies or employers. So for all that reasons, it was the decision already a few years back to go for this path towards transforming Ameriabank. So when we talk about digital transformation, it's not about kind of just digital or tech artifacts changing, kind of. It's primarily about transformation. It's about change. It's about the way of working. It's about how the people work. So we want to change this, and not just we want to do it. We have already did it to a large extent, and I will explain what we did. And secondly, yes, it's also about modernizing our tech. But firstly, it's about the change. It's about the people, right? So what did we do in more specifically? More specifically, we changed the way of working in terms that we have broken up the silos in many areas, also in IT, right? So instead of having like siloed vertical structures, we have built cross-functional, client-focused teams with shared goals. So this enables also us to give the employees more ownership, more empowerment, ownership of the product they develop, right? So we have also introduced the capability to iteratively update, develop the product. So our main products are being updated on a bi-weekly basis. So we are able to implement new features, new functionalities on this iterative basis, which is very important, as I said, given the speed of change. And so thirdly, what we did also, we enabled flexible resource allocation in the areas where it is needed. So we can flexibly assign some resources to this area or that area. We have built dedicated centers of excellences with people with special expertise, and we are able to assign these people flexibly to different areas as needed. So we have changed the way of working, and we achieved that this allows our employees to be more empowered. This allows our customers to be more satisfied because they are getting what they need in a more flexible and more quicker, right? It also allows us to get access to best talent easier, right? And basically, it also allows us to introduce modern technology faster and in a more effective way.
Thank you for laying that out. I think it's a helpful way to kind of present it. Yeah. For those of our viewers who don't know about Ameriabank necessarily in great detail, maybe you can explain how everything that you just described differentiates you from the other banks in Armenia. I mean, from what I understand, really, you are pioneering this kind of work here. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. Well, Ameriabank is one of the leaders in the Armenian banking sector. We have a strong IT sector in Armenia as such, right? So it is true. However, our IT sector has been focused on IT services, on IT delivery, maybe on IT startups, so in various areas. But with regard to having a strong IT, strong tech capability in big enterprises, so here we have a kind of a weakness in Armenia, and not only in the banking sector, but in general. So this is also, we don't have that many large corporations or enterprises as compared to some, let's say, European countries, right? As part of this transformation, what we do also, what I described is changing the way of working. So I'm not sure if some other banks are doing this as well, so maybe they are on their way as well. So what we do in addition, we also build up this technology capability for a larger enterprise, the technology management, technology architecture, governance, and so on and so forth. All this needs to be built up so that we are able to effectively live out this new way of working, right? So we have decentralized, we have built these cross-functional teams, but now we have to make sure that we have the right technology based on right standards, right architecture, and for these capabilities, we really need people with some expertise, which is really hard to find in Armenia, and we are working on that.
I want to ask you about your personal journey to Armenia. So, as I understand, you were born and raised here, but spent most of your professional life overseas in Europe, and then you moved back to Armenia to take this job at Ameriabank. Walk us through that decision. What did that look like?
Sure. So, indeed, I was born in Yerevan, and grew up in Yerevan as well. And then as a young student, I decided to continue my studies in Germany. So essentially I moved to Berlin to study computer science. Then after these studies, I worked as a tech engineer for several years, again in Germany, only to recognize that in the longer term, I wanna be a generalist, not like an expert, but more of a generalist. So what I did, I decided to go for an MBA program. So I made up my mind for INSEAD, which is a French and international business school. I did my studies there. And after that, I moved into management and strategy consulting with IT focus. So having spent several years then in different roles across geographies, across industries as a consultant, as a management consultant, I moved to financial services. And there in financial services, I worked for various banks, insurances, in leadership roles, again, focusing on IT, on digital transformation. And now, starting January 1st, I am back to Armenia, which was, I believe, great opportunity for me and also the right decision. So I'm here.
That's great. And what have these past 6 months been like? I mean, what has your impression been? How has it been to be back here working?
Yeah, so there have been several factors, right, which were important, so that I really came up with this decision to move back to Yerevan after some, I would say, 30 years. It's almost 30 years have been. And indeed, first of all, it was the opportunity to share the experience, to share the knowledge, and to make an impact for the company and even beyond, right? And secondly, it was about the people. So as I got to know the people who I will be working with, the team, so it was, I understood that this is gonna work, right? And thirdly, the opportunity to be back in Armenia, as I said, as such, it has a value proposition, especially if you are somebody who has with the roots in Armenia or with some connection, right? So it is indeed great to be back. So overall, the past 6 months have been good experience. I must say in the beginning, it was in terms of the business communication in Armenian language was kind of a little bit challenging, but now it's coming, I hope, back. Huh?
That's wonderful to hear. And actually to that point, something I hear I hear about often from repatriates and foreigners working in Armenia is how different the corporate culture here can be from places like Europe or North America. What has your experience been like in that regard? And more broadly, what has surprised you so far as you continue your career here in Armenia?
Good point. Yes, the corporate culture is indeed different in every country, I would say. So I had assignments and worked across, as I said, multiple geographies and in several countries so far. And I must say, in each country, it's specific, right? So the culture which I face here in Armenia, or specifically at Ameriabank, it's very open-minded. It's very supportive culture, right? So here you don't have much hierarchy. Yeah? So here you have really a culture which you would find in some good European institution, in a bank, if it is advanced, if it is modern. However, as I said, every country has its specifics, right? So I wouldn't speak of culture, I would speak of values, right? So in terms of the corporate values, these are, yes, indeed more, I would say, Western kind of style, which are used to see in Western countries.
I want to follow up on that a little bit as well. So in general, how do you see the financial services sector developing in Armenia in the future? In your view, what work still needs to be done? I think a lot of this has to do with everything that you've said, but just anything else that you haven't said that really you would like to see happen?
Yes, I would start with Armenia overall, because what we are seeing now that Armenia is one of the fastest growing developing economies in the region, right? So we have, let's say, stable currency rate, we have constant growth over the past years, which is projected to continue in the next years. We have low inflation and so on. And the banking sector is one of the strongest sectors of the Armenian economy and the financial services as such. So in the banking sector as well. So we have high capitalization, we have decent asset quality, and we have projected credit growth as well. So this is quite stable, right? So this is a stable sector, and we are expecting this will continue. And this as well creates an opportunity for the people who are looking for, let's say, where they can add value. So I can consider also the fintech space, right? Because this is going to add value. What are the weaknesses? The weaknesses are indeed what I mentioned, I think, is the lack of human resources, indeed in Armenia overall, and in the financial services, in the fintech space specifically, and even more specifically in those capabilities which I mentioned regarding to the tech capabilities, some of the tech capabilities. And there was this study with regard to the innovation level. I think it was also clear based on the results of that study, Global Innovation Index, I believe it was called, that human resources are one of the weaknesses which we need to cope with, I think, on a higher level, right? So we need a holistic strategy for that as a country to address this.
It's really interesting. To wrap up, I just want to ask you, what advice do you have, or what would you say to someone who was in your position outside of Armenia, but who wants to either come here and work here and build their career here, or otherwise just contribute to the development of Armenia? What would you say to those people?
Yes, this is a good one. So first I would say, do some kind of self-reflection. Try to understand what is important for yourself. Why would you do this kind of move? In what way would you like to engage yourself? Would you like to relocate? If yes, what would be your requirements or expectations, right? So just try to have some clarity about what are the main criteria for you, or what is important for you, right? And do some research, some networking to make this clearer. And once you have this, don't be too hesitant, don't be too scared, and make some bold moves. I think the chances are pretty high that you will find some kind of opportunity which satisfies your needs, especially given the growth of the economy as well as the financial services sector, as mentioned. And given the fact that, yes, we indeed, as Armenia, are looking for qualified people, I think indeed, the possibility is that you will find something which is a really good fit for you.
That's great advice. Well, Davit, thank you again for joining us and for sharing your expertise. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And thank you for joining us on CivilNet.